JD Glasscock. Welcome to So Zoom In. It's a channel I have on YouTube, which I started during this pandemic as a chance to get to know people who are out there in the creative arts and a chance to zoom in on what you're doing and who you are. So thank you very much for joining me.
Very cool.
It. Now you're in Texas, the great.
Yeah, and what we were talking about before we started was Stormcrow Productions. So when I lived in LA, I made a living doing union background and stand-in for 8 years. That's what I did the entire time I was there for a living. But I also, while I was there, I shot 11 short films.
Oh, wow.
And then I've shot 4 in the 4 years I've been in Texas. So I've shot a total of 15. And then I wrote them, obviously, because my base is in writing. But
okay. First of all, you have a beautiful little dog on your lap. Now this is Lola.
Oh, Lola.
Okay. Hi, Lola.
Yeah, she's the star of my talk show.
Okay. All right. Look at her. She's like, yeah, I've been through this before. I know what the deal is. She just wants some love. Okay.
Yeah, she doesn't care about all this. She just cares about sitting in my lap and getting petted.
Right. That love stuff. I get it. I totally get it. All right. So, well, first of all, I want to say congratulations. I saw that you have signed with this deal to have a lot of your scripts go into production.
So right. So I did a 5-picture deal with Smith International Productions. And then obviously I wrote all 5 scripts, and then I'll be directing. So it's a 5-picture deal as the writer and director. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. That's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm one of the few, I think, that got that deal. Most of the writers, they're just acquisitioning the scripts. And then because they want mostly name directors on the scripts. And they made that offer to me initially, and I said no. So
okay, well, because you are going to be one of those name directors, that's why.
And it's literally like, I mean, I've been writing for 30 years, but 15 years ago when I started writing, when I switched from poetics and lyrics and all that stuff to film, I was writing them to shoot them.
Okay. So
you know what I mean? From out of the gate, my goal was not to be a screenwriter, although writing has always been the key to what I do. Right. I started film to be a director.
Okay. Well, it's great that you know both. I mean, that you do both.
Yeah, I mean, I started that when I was like 18. I started as a slam poet, and then I was a singer-songwriter of a band for about 10 years, and then I went to film.
Do you ever miss being in the band?
Sometimes. No, I mean, not really. I mean, no, I couldn't really keep up with that lifestyle.
Okay.
The drinking all the time and all that kind of stuff. I got to my 30s, and I was like, literally, man, I cannot keep up with this lifestyle. And so then I quit my band, and then it was at the same time that a friend of mine was this was in Seattle. I was in Seattle for a decade before going to LA. So a friend of mine was taking a film class at a junior college.
Yeah.
And he just loved my writing, like my poetics, lyrics, all that kind of stuff. So he had, one of his things was he had to shoot a little, like, small short or something like that for a project for his class. And he just loved my writing. And he said, hey, can you write me up some kind of little 2-page thing to shoot? And I said, well, I've never really written. But my thing has always been, if you're a writer, you should be able to write anything you need to write.
Exactly.
And so I think I bought Sid Field's screenwriting book or something like that.
Yeah.
And I read that, I don't know, in a couple of days. And then I wrote that little thing, and then that's what started the bug. And it just happened to coincide right at the same time that I was kind of backpedaling out of music. So,
okay.
And then it was weird because I had the epiphany of almost like all the tool sets I had learned in writing poetics and lyrics had been providence, and needed to learn those to do what I was meant to do, which was film.
I like that.
Because what is dialogue writing? I mean, so poetry teaches you one thing if you do it seriously. It teaches you how to condense language.
Right.
So say more with less. So what is great dialogue but that? Most of the films we love are usually because we remember pieces of dialogue in it, or lines, or something along those lines. And great dialogue is usually they're saying a lot with a little, and they're saying it in a very unique, catchy way.
Now, slam poetry, isn't that a lot of improvised poetry also? Or is it
No, usually it's memorized pieces.
Oh, so
but you do have like a time limit, and you're competing against other people. And they have a national competition every year. I was on a national team once, and then I made it to the finals like 4 times, which is very difficult. If anyone that knows that slam poetry, you have to to even get in the finals to see who's on the team, you have to win one of the 15 competitions leading up to it. You have to win it, get first place. There's 15 competitions, and then they have 15 finalists, the winners of each one of those.
Right.
And then the top 5 make the team in the finals. But you have a time limit, 3 minutes and 10 seconds, and then every 5 seconds or 10 seconds. I haven't done it in a long time, decades probably. You go over that, you get a half-point deduction off your score, and there's usually 5 judges, and then the high score and low score are dropped.
So it's all.
And then there's multiple rounds. So there's usually 3 rounds.
Is it all original poetry that you write, or is it poetry other people?
Original, yeah.
Oh,
you have to be the author, and it has to be original. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds kind of exciting. Well, it sounds like.
And then usually you need it memorized, because you will be knocked for points if you're trying to read it off a page, because half the score is performance.
Okay.
So half the score is content, and half the score is performance.
Now, do you still write poetry all the time? Something that you do.
I don't know about all the time, but I still write poetics and lyrics periodically. I just don't perform anymore. My main focus is film.
Right.
So, but I don't feel the need to write constantly anymore. I write when I feel like it, or if I have a project that needs done, or I have 16, and I'm almost done with my 17th book, a self-published book of poetics, lyrics, film, video game designs, all that kind of stuff. So literally I have 5 features done, which is the deal that they asked for. They asked me which scripts were done, and then they said they wanted all of them.
Oh, that's great.
And then I have probably 1 or 2 more past that are kind of partially written, and then I have 28 or 30 scripts feature scripts outlined that I haven't even touched yet. So but until I've shot these features, there's no real impetus for me to need to write more features. I mean, I'm trying to shoot them myself. I'm not trying to sell them. So,
right. Well, but for your own production company, you have a horror film right now, right? Or in pre-production, or that?
No, that's one of the 5 that are slated.
Oh, I thought that was separate.
No, I put, I think recently you might be referring to that I've been putting some excerpts up from different of those features up on my Facebook.
So what genres do you like to write?
All over the place, but they all tend to be kinetic, energy, action. The slate, the 5 films that I'm slated to do for Smith International Productions. One is, the first one up is a sci-fi post-apocalyptic horror. Second one up is a Western. Third one up is supernatural horror. Fourth one up is a dark superhero, all Watchmen kind of thing. And then the 5th one up is more of a pure sci-fi. And then I have comedies I've started. Those are the ones I was referencing that I kind of partially wrote.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't focused on the comedy side, but even my intense films that I do have, I always try to throw a little comedy in there, just for some fact that you need to. If you have a really dark, intense film, you need to throw some comedic moments in there. Otherwise, it's just to create dynamics. Otherwise, you're just kind of overwhelming people.
Do you ever find that any of your characters are poetic? I mean, do you have any one of your characters reciting poetry, or throw in a little poetic?
Kind of a little bit, but I mean, most of my dialogue is very
straightforward,
poetic.
Okay.
No, a
Okay.
lot of my dialogue is very poetic. If you read any of those excerpts, there's that's what I think. That's why even out of the gate, when I was doing my first short films, they were winning awards because I write in a way that's very different and unique to a lot of other, because of my background.
Right.
So you see that in the way I write dialogue. I'm mostly well known for dialogue. So, well, I mean, in story too, but my dialogue is it's got that poetic flavor to it, you know.
Well, to get good dialogue, that's not easy for most writers. So for it to come so easily,
it's probably one of my strengths is dialogue. But yeah.
All right. Well, how about music in your films? Being part of a band for so long.
I tend to use bands. I mean, I have one or two. I have like out of my 15 short films, I think maybe 2 of them had composed music, but all the rest of them had like actual songs. I like using actual songs as the music on a film as opposed to composed.
Right. Give some artists
I'm really a lover of blues and jazz, and it fits because I shoot noir lighting.
Okay.
So like it's kind of that shadow lighting, like you're hitting someone from one side with lights, so you have shadow on one side, you have light on the other, and then you can play around with which side you shoot from. But and so blues and jazz I found fits that kind of stylistically really well.
Now, when you were part of the band, would you write some of the music too, or just always the lyrics?
When I was in a band?
Oh, when you were in your band, would you compose the music yourself?
Yeah, okay, so I didn't play any instrument, but I would write the lyrics, and they would have a bass melody line in my head.
Okay.
And so I would hum the melody to my bassist.
Okay.
And then he played bass kind of almost like a rhythm guitar. Hence why me and him were the ones that would compose the songs. So I would hum the melody line to the lyrics. He would catch the melody line and then elaborate a little bit. And then I would change the lyrics a little bit to fit what he came up with. But it was usually based off a melody line that I came up with.
So as the director, when you're shooting something, do you have music in mind when you're
No, music's usually the last thing I do.
Oh, that comes after the fact. Okay. Because I know like some musicians, when they see something, they're already putting music to whatever they're seeing.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm focused on, because I'm writing it and directing it. When I'm focused on the actors, I'm focused on like when the first thing I'm doing is we're casting for the actors. I'm trying to put together the crew, the production crew, making sure we have the right lights, making sure that we have a sound guy, crew, all that stuff.
It's a lot of work.
These features will be nice because I'll have people doing most of that.
Now, are you going to be shooting during the pandemic, or are you guys going to wait till after?
I don't think, I think that everybody's wrong with this whole let's keep waiting and waiting. I don't think COVID's going away anytime soon.
Right.
And so I think people just need to figure out how to start shooting within the parameters that we're living in.
Right, I agree. So do you
I think in life in general, I think people, this waiting for some miraculous vaccine, which I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to take. I've never taken a vaccine in my life, nor would I. Vaccines have a tendency, especially when they're new vaccines, of messing up more people than helping people.
I agree.
And so I would not do that. But I certainly social distance. I certainly wear masks. And on a set, we will be doing that. We will be isolating. We will be bringing the crew and cast in. They will have to take a test. And then we will be isolating. Like, I think the first one we're doing, we're shooting in Florida, which is where the studio's based.
Okay.
And it's it's almost all interior anyway. So it doesn't really matter where I shoot it.
Right.
And I think near their studio is a whole complex of Airbnb apartments. And I think she's just going to rent a bunch of them out for us.
Okay. Oh,
and
good.
so we'll just isolate there while we're shooting and get it shot. So I think people that are waiting, they're going to be waiting a long time.
Right.
I just think people need to start just figuring out this is the new parameters, this is the new dynamic. And if we're filmmakers, we need to start shooting film.
And make it work, exactly.
Because I've watched like literally almost every old film there is. I need some new films, man. I'm telling you.
So have you had to rewrite any of your work to fit the circumstances of COVID?
No, and I won't do that. This whole rule, it's why a lot of people are not wanting to deal with the unions right now, why they're going to pay. I know a lot of filmmakers that are going to be paying union rates
Right.
but they don't want to deal with the union right now because the unions can't figure out what the hell they want to do.
Yeah.
And everything with unions keeps changing every other day. And some of the restrictions they're talking about would almost be killing not low budget. I mean,
Independent film.
And like only studios with $80 million budgets would be able to actually like do half the stuff they're talking about.
Right. So
to me, it's almost like I don't want to say conspiracy, but I almost feel like studios who have had a large issue with independence and the growing popularity of independent films and the growing popularity of Netflix and all that kind of stuff are almost using COVID as an excuse to use the unions to hammer through a deal that would like kill a lot of the studio's competition.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
And so a lot of films, I think, are almost to the point where, hey, we'll pay everyone union rates, but we're not going to deal with the unions. We're just going to shoot our films and deal with the unions after the fact.
Well,
because in the end, unions care about one thing. They care about money.
Who doesn't, right?
So I think if productions are paying people union rates and they're doing their best to be safe and do whatever they can to make people safe under COVID conditions,
right?
Then that they should just focus on shooting film. Right. If they're waiting around for the unions to figure out their crap, that might take longer than the actual COVID.
Right. Well, actors want to work. People want to work.
I mean, there's people already shooting right now.
Really? Yeah. Well, yeah.
So, I mean, I know a ton of people I know in the indie world that are already in the middle of shooting feature films or just got done shooting feature films.
But I would think this really encourages guerrilla filmmaking too. It's like they're going to do it no matter what.
Well, no, I mean, I just think that the unions are almost like, they are like they're politicians. they're using a horrendous thing happening to push forward their agenda instead of just trying to figure out how to help their own members.
Right.
And they're using the excuse of we're doing it to care about your safety as a way to actually push through political agendas.
Mm.
And I just think it's ridiculous. People need to start working.
Right.
Especially people where that's their only livelihood.
Acting.
You got like guys that have been crew for 20, 30 years or actors where before the COVID, they'd gotten to the point where even if they're not millionaires, they were working actors.
Regularly, right.
And now all of a sudden, no work for 7 months or 8 months or whatever it is.
Yet there's still such a demand for it. All these new
people are tired. They're like me. They're tired of watching the same old movies they've already seen now 8 times.
Right. They want something new and fresh. And
then unfortunately, Netflix, Netflix has had a couple good things, but most of unfortunately, a lot of stuff that comes on Netflix is crap.
Yeah, why is that? I mean, it's so hard to get.
Because they're trying to always fill a bunch of product. They always want a bunch of new product to show that they always are having new stuff. And so, it's not like 15, 20 years ago. 15, 20 years ago, they were handing money out like candy because they wanted to make their big push that they did. And to do that, they needed literally thousands and thousands and thousands of new films.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't do that anymore. It's much, much, much more difficult to get money out of Netflix. But what they're doing is they're buying up a lot of product that's already been shot. You know what I mean?
Right. And probably that's why it's not so great.
And filler, it's like filler basically.
Yeah.
And but it's unfortunate. I mean, like Old Guard I liked. And I thought it was awesome that it was a African-American female director on a big action film. I thought that was cool. I think she was just a great director. I did have a problem. People kept saying, defining her by being an African-American female. I got that was.
But she's a director.
Yeah, but when they were talking about how great she was, they kept saying African-American.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Female director, like almost she's good for an African-American female director.
Oh,
and I'm like, no, man, I get you can give her accolades for being that and accomplishing directing a huge film. But if you're going to talk about her skill sets, just talk about her as a director.
Exactly. I agree. Yeah. The way it should be.
But I thought that was decent. I thought the Warrior Nun thing was okay. It wasn't horrible. But then they did that other one, Cursed, and I'm a big Arthur fan, like
Right.
King Arthur
Yeah.
fan.
Excalibur. Yeah.
And I was excited before it came out of, oh, they're going to do one about Arthur. But that was literally horrible.
No, a lot of those movies about Arthur have been bad lately.
Well, that was a series that Netflix put out, a TV series.
Yeah,
And I was just like the first film, I don't know who did their stunt coordinating, but literally it was like the worst.
Ooh. Do you have a lot of stunts in your films? A lot of action?
Yeah, I mean, most of my films are
right, high action.
Yeah, so the first one, though, I'm a big fan of what Spartacus Blood and Sand did.
Okay.
With the slow-mo and the post-blood effects and the heavy shadow lighting and, like slow-mo and like almost graphic novel-esque blood kind of flowing out for several reasons. One, it means you can kind of shoot it slow motion, like quarter speed, third speed, which then allows you to use your actors instead of stunt people.
Right. Back to
and
safety.
That means you can get great shots of the actual actors in it. And since you're going you're shooting it slow so they can move slow and you can cheat camera around, it makes it safer to me. I'm not worried about it. And then I'm not also wasting all the time of, if you're doing full speed action, you literally are probably spending a week on one fight sequence trying to get all between the actors and the stunt people, all of that coordinated tightly enough to be able to shoot it.
Wow. What do you shoot on? I mean, I assume you digital. What kind of camera do you like to use? What kind of camera do you like to use when you shoot?
I've usually hired on my short films. I've just hired whoever was available with very limited funds, and whatever camera they owned. This is the first time I'm able to pick. And we're going to use, I'm pretty sure we're going to use Black Magic because I've always wanted to use Black Magic because with noir lighting, I just think the look that Black Magic cameras get with noir shadow lighting is just amazing. Like the darkness is so rich on those cameras. Now, a lot of DPs will say, oh, that has nothing to do with the camera. It has to do with the lighting. I don't agree with it. I think different cameras have different strengths and look at things differently. I think with my heavy noir lighting, I think Black Magic will look amazing. And then I think I've conversed my producer into agreeing to have actual 2 camera crews.
Nice. Okay.
Because I think it saves a lot of time and money because you can shoot tights while you're shooting wides, and just having 2 cameras running the whole time, it just expedites everything.
How much time are you giving yourself for each movie?
It just depends. I mean, you really can't answer that until you're in pre-production and you're breaking it down and you're doing the actual schedule and then, you know what I mean? Really, until a first AD and line producer and UPM and all of them are sitting down with me and the DP and trying to figure out actually, and you've got your locations locked and all that stuff. It's all you're doing is guessing. It's so funny because a lot of times they want to know all these things, but in reality, you're just guessing. Because literally, even budget, until you completely break down that script and start pricing everything.
Yeah, it's a process.
Any budget you give them is a guess.
It really is. It really is.
Literally, I mean, it's just until you actually are in pre-production in the meat and breaking everything down. And the reality of stuff, you can. I mean, now a lot of these people have been doing it for so long; their guess is pretty close,
right?
But it's still a guess.
Right. And you have to leave room for error, when unexpected things come up. And
true, and I've said that to a lot of young filmmakers. Anytime you shoot film, something's going to go wrong.
It's part of the experience of shooting a film,
and you have to figure out solutions. I think shooting 15 short films with I think we had an average of $1,000 to shoot each one of those things. And that's with everybody getting paid, and that's including post, and that's including.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, literally, I was having to create things out of thin air to make that happen, or jury rig stuff, or we have the wrong lights, or all sorts of stuff. But when you're shooting like that, it really teaches you how to be creative and how to find solutions and
Think on your feet, definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I'm not, I think I forgot the tangent. What was the original question?
See, we just talking about filmmaking. We're talking about how, when you're gonna get started on your films, and how much time you're allotting for each one.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think I write very, I write with franchise in mind when I write features.
Smart.
And I write with merchandising in mind, and I write with really over the top, a lot of imagination. Okay. So like this first film, Blade and Blood, what we're gonna do, all those characters are so iconic. There's like 30 characters, and all of them need their own costume design. You know what I mean? So all of them need iconic stuff, because obviously it'll be relevant based on success. But in case that success is there, I have collectible action figures planned. I have a graphic novel series planned. I even have a video game design for that movie. You know what I mean? So for all that to work, that means that those costumes need to really be iconic. We even have plans, if the success of the film is enough, to make replica cosplay costumes. You know what I mean?
You got the business mindset going. That's great.
I go that into every film, every feature film I write. I have that inherently within the film.
Okay, and do you already have sequels in mind? Or is that something?
That one is written with a sequel in mind, excuse me. About 2 hours ago, I swallowed a vitamin down the wrong pipe. Ooh. And so for like 2 hours, my whole throat's been irritated. But so I'm sorry. The first film was written with a sequel in mind. It literally ends.
Okay.
Basically saying, everyone that watches it will go, there's another one coming.
Well, and with series so popular, with your films, is it something you consider turning into a series after you make it as a movie? Because I know that
like TV series.
TV, right?
Well, I have 2 TV series that I haven't even touched yet. So
I mean,
different.
Well, like Scream, for example. Scream was a huge hit. With sequel.
Yeah, but that was a horrible TV series, and that was and besides the first Scream, it just started getting ridiculous after that.
No, but it has a following, though.
It does. It has a cult following, all that stuff, because people like corny. But but Sharknado has a following, then,
right?
Yeah. So, no, I mean, I obviously with the video game, and I have a lot of plans, but obviously all of that's based on success, and you can't. Right. You don't know that till you know it. You know what I mean? Right. So
one step at a time.
I have a lot of faith that if the actors are there and we do the costuming right, and the actors pull their roles off, and we do the art deck, set deck to really build this kind of because it all takes place in the city of blood in like the future post-apocalyptic. So if we do art and set deck and really make that world live, and the costuming's on point. And we shoot it how I envision it. We're doing a lot of innovative stuff with, you remember that old TV series, Wild Wild West?
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember in the very beginning, they would do that comic panel? And then during like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, when at the end of each act, it would freeze and then would come back, that image would come back up to the comic panel, and then it would go into the next act or whatever.
Right.
So I'm doing something similar like that in Blade and Blood, where at the end of scenes, wherever the actors are, it freezes and it like captures that, and then it comes back out to a map of the city of blood.
Oh wow!
And then reticle will go to wherever the next part is.
Well, sounds exciting. Sounds really exciting. Wow.
Well, I don't know. I like being creative in whatever I do.
Well, whether it's, I should hope so. You're an artist. You definitely are.
Yeah.
An artist.
So I mean, it's just. I don't know. I mean, but the second film was a Western. Now, I still try to make that Western cult classic. And there's certainly, I guess, I didn't write it specifically for a sequel in mind. So not all of them are going to be along those lines. Okay. I certainly did, though, when I wrote that, I did even write some big video game player. So I did even on the Western have a video game in mind that you could actually do if you wanted to do.
Yeah. So for your Western, would you shoot that in Texas or would that be?
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't shoot that in Florida.
Right.
That's almost all exterior. So literally you would have to,
Right.
I don't know about Texas, because Texas has almost no tax incentives.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought they
No,
did.
because you have a lot of Republicans in the reps in Texas, and they hate Hollywood. So
Okay. And
there's specifically one guy that literally tries to destroy every time they try to make a tax incentive. There's like a senator, I forget his name, but he literally tries to squash it and kill it every time it comes up.
wow. I was under the impression that Austin was becoming like a hubbub.
Austin in the area might have something
Yeah.
specific to Austin.
But Texas as a whole.
But you have Rodriguez's studio down in Austin, so the El Rey network is based in Austin.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
is Rodriguez TV network.
Right. Okay. So, well, would you shoot in Austin or would you like look at other places like
No,
Wyoming?
I don't know. I mean, right now,
Yeah, it
one of
just
the biggest ones is New Mexico. So
Okay.
they have a actual tax rebate.
Oh, nice. Okay. That makes
They
a
have
huge
like a
difference.
25% tax rebate. So literally 180 days after you get done shooting, they cut you a check for 25% of your budget.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, so literally that's probably one of the most popular places to shoot right now.
Okay.
But it would have to be for a Western, it would have to be Oklahoma, Texas,
Right.
you know what I
Someplace
mean?
in
One
desert.
of those states.
Yeah.
Now I have specifically in there, I have forested areas. So it would have to be somewhere that had forests.
Well, that's part of the fun too, is finding location.
You never know. We might even shoot in Oregon. I have no clue.
Okay. It says, I mean, do you have scouts for that, or is that something that you would do yourself?
I don't know, because that's the second film in the thing, so I'm not really worried about it until I get this first one out of the way. And we're not, because of COVID, the investors are trying to figure out whether they want to. And you got to understand, this is for a streaming company. That's why that company. I'm one of. They have like 42 films in development over the next few years.
Wow, that's good.
So literally, we got to wait for about another month, I think, before we start figuring out who's shooting when and where.
Wow. So when it happens, though, it sounds like it's going to happen really fast, and you just have
Probably. I mean, I'm ready to go as far as
Right.
Blade and Blood. I mean,
Right.
I'm ready to go into pre-production, and then we'll start hiring all the crew. And I have some of it cast already, but certainly I have like 10 roles cast out of like 30. So
Okay. Well, it sounds really exciting.
because we're gonna add like at least probably a couple name actors onto that.
Oh, good. Well, like I said, actors want to work. How about editing? Is that something that you're going to have a process in or hand in, or? Do you have
I certainly direct the editing. But I'm not an editor. But I pretty much write the script and shoot it the way I want it edited.
Oh, nice. Okay, so that makes it
So like, I'm not a big like do 100 shots of everything. I'm like,
right.
I literally envision how I want it shot, and that's how I shoot it.
Okay, that's going to make it go a lot faster too, which I'm sure your investors will. Really
Yeah, I mean,
appreciate.
I'm not into. It was so funny. You know who Landis is, right? Like Animal House and all that stuff.
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so he's kind of on the tail end of his career. But he did a episode of I forget. I was background on it. It was a TV show. It was with the main guy from Saved by the Bell. He was on a TV show where they're like two lawyers or whatever. I forget the name of it. And it had the guy from Agent Orange in it as well, like the Robert McDowell or something like that. But he directed an episode. And in TV, it's weird because they change directors like almost every other week.
Right.
And most of the people that have power on a TV set are the DP and the producer, the showrunners.
Right.
You know what I mean? The directors don't usually get to edit anything. They come in, they shoot, and a lot of times they're shooting stuff that DP's telling them to shoot. So a lot of times on TV, the directors are more dealing with actors as opposed to creating shots or anything like that. Occasionally they'll go create a shot. But Landis was there, and Landis, I was laughing. The crew loved him because he kept getting done in like 10 hours, 11 hours. But he literally did what I just mentioned. He shot it so you could only edit it one way. And I was on another episode, like, I don't know, 3 weeks later, and they were still talking about how pissed off
Right. Well, it's pretty smart of him.
Yeah, and then it was so funny because John, I watched a great series, if you've never seen it, In the Director's Chair on El Rey Network with Rodriguez, where Rodriguez interviews really famous directors.
Uh-huh.
Robert Rodriguez, you know, have you ever watched El Rey Network?
I have, but not recently.
Okay, so he had a series on there where called The Director's Chair, where he would bring in some huge director, and then he would interview them, you know, one-on-one.
Right.
And it was amazing because Rodriguez is a brilliant director. So having a brilliant director interview a brilliant director is very
inspiring.
Yeah.
And just
And I remember there was one episode where he interviewed John Carpenter.
Ooh, that must be great.
So, and it's so funny because John Carpenter was like 80 and he's still like chain smoking. Like the whole interview, he's literally just chain smoking the whole time. And but I think Carpenter happened to be one of Rodriguez's big heroes. So, and Carpenter said the same thing when Carpenter started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, like his films. Like when he first started out, Carpenter had almost carte blanche control.
Right.
When he was making like the indie films that basically blew up, you know, like he had almost no budgets on his first few films. But more and more as the budgets kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and they were making a lot of money, that was when the studios started coming in and trying to control everything. And so Carpenter said he did that almost every time. Like he would shoot it exactly how he wanted to edit it.
Okay. So
now sometimes he said the studios would circumvent him and they would get without him knowing, have like a second camera unit that was like shooting behind him.
Ooh, okay.
To get some of the shots that they knew he wasn't going to do, and then or they went and reshot afterwards
without involving him.
Probably, yeah. They kind of were jumping around conversations. So
wow. But you're right. So if you have something in your mind, just stick with it, and that way.
Yeah, I mean, now part of my deal is I want creative control. So you know, like I said, originally they offered me the same deal they were offering the writers, which wasn't allowing anyone of them to direct. Now, granted, a lot of the writers they're getting, and they're brilliant writers. A lot of the writers are just that, screenwriters. They're not really directors.
Right.
And they tried to offer me that same deal, and I said no. And then I said the same thing I said to you. I was like, when I first started writing films 15 years ago, and I've been writing for 30 years, I wrote films to direct them.
Right.
I didn't write films to sell them.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? Or be a screenwriter. I mean, I am a writer. I think I'm a pretty darn good writer, but I wrote all these films for me to shoot them.
Good. Now, have you done acting yourself? Have you ever
I have. It's not really my thing. I mean, I can act. There's a couple of my shorts that I had to act in, but that was more because the actor fell out 2 or 3 days before.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? Like we were shooting or something like that. But I would never, I don't know if I ever want to do that again because I miss too many things, from frames to lighting to when I'm having to be in front of the camera instead of behind the camera.
Okay, well, at least you had that experience of what it's like to be in front of the camera. That makes you...
Yeah, I mean, because it's not very much different than being a front man or doing slam poetry.
Right.
I mean, in slam poetry, you'd be in a bar with a bunch of drunk people, and you had to, by yourself with no music and just your words, try to capture an entire bar of drunk people's attention.
That sounds pretty exciting.
There's no difference between that and when you're acting, trying to pull the focus with your words or emotions.
Is slam poetry still a thing, or was it something that was...
Yeah, they still do it.
Okay.
I don't really pay attention to it because it changed a lot.
Right.
When I was doing it, even the ones that weren't very good were still trying to be unique and have their own voice and performance style. And that was the thing at that time. It was just, no matter what you did, you wanted it to be unique unto you and the way you performed and your style of writing and all that stuff. And then you had someone, you had a guy, I forget his name now, Saul something. created a HBO film called Slam, and he had already won like one of the national competitions in slam poetry, and then he got actually cast as a lead in a film. I think HBO put it out called Slam, and in the movie, it's almost based on his real life and him doing his poetry and you know and all that stuff, and it got really big. So then then HBO did that Deaf Poetry Jam or whatever. Now Saul Williams. Now that guy, that was his style. He had that very sing-songy, over the hill, down the rise. But that was his style. Right. And it was original unto him. Now, because all of a sudden he had all this fame and he was the guy that won the Nationals a couple times or something like that. I took a break for like eight years of not even doing that at all or going to those things because I was focused on music at the time. Right. And then I started going to them, and then almost 99% of every poet that got up all performed like Saul Williams. Oh no! Like they all went to a class on how to read poetry. Oh, that's the worst. And even if they were good writers, I was like, man, I cannot. You're all sounding the same. You're all sounding like you all went to Saul Williams' class on Poetry 101, and you're all like trying to sound like this guy. Right. Well, that happens. And so I don't know if it's still like that. I haven't gone to those in like a long time, but I was just totally turned off, and I got in kind of contentious arguments with the in crowd at that time, which is not unusual for me. I've been doing that since like I don't like in crowds, man. I just like people. If you're nice, I don't care whether you're good looking, ugly, fat, skinny, gay, straight, whatever. I'll be friends with you. But I could really don't give a crap about if you're in the popular or unpopular. So obviously I've rubbed a lot of the in-crowd people wrong over the years because they're not too fond if they want you in the in-crowd, but you don't want to be in the in-crowd. That usually they don't take that well. But I kind of conflicted with them because I was very blunt and direct about like, holy hell, dude, why don't you get your own style? That would be right. Yeah. Like, why don't you quit? Why don't you talk more like you instead of like trying to sound like Saul Williams? That would be good. Right. Yeah, that advice can go to any actor, any filmmaker, because a lot of times you have a big hit that comes out, and the next thing you know, you have all these movies like that wanting to be that same hit again. Yeah, and I'm just so the opposite of that. I'm like very much like make it your own, whether it's good or bad, make it your own. Like have your own voice, whether you're talented or you're not talented, at the very least, be you and have your own voice. And the main thing is you're doing it too. And then, because to me, that's what art is. Art is not like, let me sound like the guy that's got really popular and made money. Right. Yeah. I mean, there are people that have done that in music and in films and in all that stuff. You know, you have like Motley Crue, then all of a sudden every label created a hair band that sounded like Motley Crue. I get it. People do that. I get it. When bullying was popular, all of a sudden every filmmaker wanted to make a film about bullying. Yeah. You know what I mean? I get it. But to me, I don't really look at those people as artists. I look at those people as like money grubbers. They're just, all they care about is trying to make money, not art. Right. Well, the trick is to be the artist and make money, you know, I think you can do both. Yeah, exactly. I think you can do both. But there are definitely people in every industry where their focus is making money. They have no care about art. They don't care about, they will write whatever you want them to write if you're paying them. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. Well, so you have the right mindset because you're the artist, but you're also the businessman because you have all these other things planned out about what you want to do and how. No, I mean, I think you certainly need to write in a way that appeals to as many people as you can appeal to, but I think you can still do that and be unique and original. Right, keep your authentic voice in it. Your and be unique and original and come up with innovative things. But that's the difference between an artist and someone that's just trying to get fame and money and all that stuff. I mean, where they're just all they care about is doing whatever they need to do to like I have a guy I know, and he's a nice guy, but literally he just churns out these straight to video B films over and over and over and over and over and over again, like literally. But that's literally, I mean, there's no really anything original about the films he does. They're like carbon copies of something that's already been done. And who watches those? I've always wondered. I don't know. He makes money. I mean, he doesn't make a crap ton of money, but and he shoots them all for like 100 grand, 150 grand, and they go straight to video to Asia or wherever the hell they're going.
Yeah, I heard that's big. I heard like, Asia and these other
Well, that's
countries.
how Sharknado became popular.
Right.
Everybody said no to Sharknado, like Sci-Fi Channel, all the people they tried to pitch said no.
Yeah.
They went to China or whatever, somewhere in Asia.
Right.
It took off in Asia.
And then
They brought it back here.
Well, thing is, you just have to keep pushing it. You have to, if you believe.
I don't know, Sharknado, I could, no matter what anyone else likes, I got through about 10 minutes of the first one and I was like, oh my God, this is like the worst thing I've ever seen, man. The acting and writing and just literally everything was
It's
so bad.
campy.
You know what, but Attack of the Killer Tomatoes was campy, but literally that's what they meant that film to be.
Right. Well, didn't they?
You know what I mean? Like when you could tell when someone wrote Sharknado, they were not trying to be campy. They were trying to make
a serious
an actual film.
Oh, okay. And actually,
and it's just literally so bad that it is campy. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between those two things. Like the Blob,
right?
The original Blob was written to be ridiculous.
Okay. All right.
So.
And here I always thought it was meant to be. Okay. Well, that's good to know. So
I mean, granted to them, whoever has that IP made a lot of money. I mean,
right. Okay.
All blessings. I'm all for people fulfilling whatever aspirations they have. And I mean, whether it's an aspiration I would ever have, that's a different thing. But if their goal was to just be well known and make a ton of money, then all power.
Yeah. They did like 6 or 7 of them, I think, but.
I have no idea. Like I said, I couldn't get through the first one. So literally, like, I didn't watch. I think I watched 5 minutes of like the third one just because it was literally, I flipped it on. And it was as bad at acting and writing as the other ones. So I was like, oh my God, I can't, man.
Well, I got a couple of chuckles out of it, so I thought it was.
Yeah, like the sharks landing.
Right, that was kind of funny. Well, all right. So, how are you doing during this pandemic yourself? I mean, are you on lockdown? Are you?
I took about 3 months off of work when it first happened, like end of March.
Yeah.
And I just went back to work, but I'm still trying to keep it like maybe just a couple days a week because I'm still almost 50 years old. I really don't. Yes, I had to go back to work, but I'm trying to still keep that limited.
Right.
So because I'm still like not wanting to catch COVID.
Right. Well, no one wants to catch it. Yeah, exactly. Well, all right, but you're staying safe and staying creative, and you're in that flow, and you'll be making.
And certainly, and believe me, I'm very blessed, and it's kind of almost providence. The whole 5-picture deal. I just think things happen when they should. And I always try to tell people, believe in yourself, have faith in yourself, and never give in. Right. Like I wrote and chased after it for 30 years. And if I had given up 10 years ago, or I'd given up 20 years ago, because believe me, during that whole time, I had haters and naysayers who said, what are you really going to do with your life? Why don't you figure out something else? Why don't you give up on this dream? Why don't you do all of those things? And the artist is going to get a lot of that. Right. Usually a lot of times from the closest people to you are going to do that. And they do it from a good place. They just want you to be realistic, I guess is the words they use. But I always say just keep persevering. Usually the ones that succeed are the ones that don't give up.
Exactly. Now, so all these books that you've published, your poetry books and stuff, is that something that people can buy, or?
They can. I do it more. I don't really push them because I do it more as a secondary copyright.
Okay.
But they're on lulu.com, like lulu.com.
Right.
And under my name, JD Glasscock. They're all mixes of poetics, lyrics, film, and then kids book, graphic novel work, video game designs.
Wow, that's great. So I love that you're just so creative. You just really put yourself out there and you're in that creative flow.
Well, I think it all comes, but it's all based in the same thing, like creating worlds, writing.
Right, but you're doing it. A lot of people talk about it.
But I was doing it when I was a kid. It's just, I think people are who they are from the time of birth, the vehicle just might change.
Right.
Like when I was a little kid, I was a loner, and I had like, I don't know, like 20 Star Wars action figures, whatever.
Awesome.
And I remember I created these massive worlds. I had like 3 or 4 different worlds, and each of those figures had a different personality based on which one of those worlds I was using. And I would like have these overplots and underplots, and
Oh, exciting.
so literally it just, all it's done is I've done the same thing the whole time. It just changed vehicles.
So just out of curiosity, do you still have those Star Wars toys?
No, and it killed me. I left them all when I moved to when I was 8. I don't know. I was like 20 or something like that. I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
Right.
I moved to Hawaii, and I gave that entire bag of all my Star Wars figures and GI Joe figures and all that stuff. I gave them to my mom because I was born and raised in Orange County. So I remember putting them in one of those Angels duffel bags, you know, from the baseball team.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we used to go watch them when I was a kid, because Orange County, like whatever.
Right. Go Angels.
And so it was an Angels duffel bag, and I remember I had them all in there, and I said, "Please save these for me." And then like a decade later or more, I was like, "Mom, do you still have those?" "Oh no, we threw those away a long time ago."
Okay, Mom.
I'm just like, wow. Okay,
Wow,
Mom, you know how much those things would be worth right now?
Exactly. That could fund your next movie. Yeah, exactly. But JD, it's been so much fun talking to you. I really appreciate your time, and I
appreciate being here.
You know, and I look forward to seeing great things from you. It sounds like you're already making them happen. You know, so.
You know, it's just time. I'm very blessed that Smith International Productions believes in me and has faith in me, and is giving me this opportunity, and especially such a big opportunity of like right out of the bat saying,
"Go
5 films."
I love it. So hey, when you have your first one done, we're gonna have to do another interview. Want to do that?
Yeah, and then they want me to do it back to back. So literally, they want me to shoot all 5 of them like back to back. I'm gonna have to put judicious order in there and put some breaks in there, because I don't know if I can shoot 5 films like straight back to back without taking a little bit of a break here and there. But it's a great opportunity. I'm very blessed. And that's also my manager, Tammy Smith. So
that's great. She's working.
Yeah. So if you have any talented crew or talented actors, I think they're still looking for, because her big thing is she wants to populate all their films with her clients.
Okay. That's
one of the big motivators for her creating all this to begin with.
Right.
Is to give opportunities for talented people that maybe are on the outside looking in. You know what I mean? So.
And build a community. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's using all her own people to populate these films. I mean, obviously not named actors. She'll pull those from whatever.
Well, then eventually some of these actors will be named actors, you know.
They will, yeah.
You know, and then they'll be part of that community. So that's really smart. Well, you know, making a film is such a collaborative effort. You know, you really need a group of people.
And she just wants everyone on the same team pulling together, and none of the big ego things and all that stuff. So.
And you can trust them, and that's smart. It sounds like
I mean, but most of the great directors tend to use a lot of the same people, whether it be crew or actors or.
Exactly.
I mean, holy heck! Way back when, Eastwood almost had the same actors in almost every film of his.
Right, I remember that
during the '80s and stuff like that. And
well, he married one, right? His Sandra Locke, was it? Right.
Oh, the redhead.
Yeah, the redhead, right? Was that Sandra Locke? Or no, was she?
Yeah, the one that was in all the 8 films with him.
Right, exactly.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, there was like a stretch of about a decade though, where literally it was like the same actor in every film.
Let's go play.
With other actors as well, but he would always find a little slot for. And then Adam Sandler obviously is well known for that.
Smart. It's a smart thing to do.
I don't know. I mean, I don't mind using the same actors. I think I'm more along Tarantino lines, where like maybe like wait 2 or 3 more films, then use the same actor again.
Well, I guess it all just depends what you're doing, right? Yeah.
It is, and it depends on the film and the roles and whether they fit him or not, like that.
Wow, you are going to be crazy busy. So
we will see. We will see. I'm just all I can do is fulfill what I envision I'm capable of, you know, and putting the work in and putting the sweat in. That's what I always say, man, is you can have all the talent in the world, but talent without actually putting the work and the sweat and the dedication is like a rough blob. It takes work, dedication to chisel that talent into actually dialed in skill. You know what I mean? So
exactly. Yeah, nothing's ever handed to you. You have to.
No, yeah, you just got to keep working.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited for you, and I look forward to seeing these 5 movies plus additional ones that could come your way.
Yeah, it'll take a few years, I think.
Hey, time goes by anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Believe me, I'm almost 50. It does go by.
Well, you look great for almost 50, and you know,
I appreciate it.
And 50 is just a number. What are you talking
about? When I meet people, I tell them I'm 90, and then they go, "Oh my God, you look amazing for 90."
Right?
Like, all right, yeah, thank you, I appreciate that.
You'd be cranking it out when you are 90, and you'll still look the same. You know, it's like, there you go.
I would be shocked as hell if I made it to 90, but yeah.
Well, do what you love that keeps you young.
That is true, yes. And I have spent a lifetime economically challenged, but I have spent a lifetime doing what I love.
Good. Well, that's going to shift everything so you won't be economically challenged and everything just comes to you and you have everything you need.
Yeah, all things in their time. Like I said, if you just always put the work in and the dedication, eventually that stuff pays off.
Right, exactly. I'm so excited. Well, JD, thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it. And big, beautiful dreams to anybody that watches this. Believe in yourself, have faith in yourself, put the work in, and as always, dream.
Well, one last thing. Do you have a website you'd like to share?
I have the Blade and Blood website, and that has links to my YouTube and all that stuff on it. Right. And it's just literally bladeandblood.com, BLADEANDBLOOD.com.
Okay, great. We will have people check it out. All right. Thank you so much, JD.
All right, blessing.
All right. Take care.
You.